Newcastle 4, Luton Town 4. Now, I think I've told you guys before that I have a special place in my heart for teams that are newly promoted and they are just trying to make their way into the Premier League. Now, Luton Town is a team that reminds me of teams of the past that have either tried and failed to stay in the Premier League. You have teams such as Blackpool a few years ago that I remember gave Liverpool a very tough time when they beat them home and away, but eventually ended up getting relegated. And then you think of teams such as Ipswich Town, who I think hopefully will get promoted next season, who have not been in the top tier for over 25 years. And then you think of teams such as Huddersfield. And it reminds you that football is a very fluid sport, and the beauty of it is to get new blood in all the time. So I will spare you guys the Super League talk, and I'm not going to go into it there, but I will say that I absolutely adore Luton Town. And what I saw today in their game against Newcastle United was a team that does not want to be beaten, a team that does not want to go down, and a team that wants to reward its fans each and every time they go out and play. So I have a special place for Luton Town, and I do hope that they make it somehow into next season's Premier League. And I am still going to go out on a limb and say that out of the bottom five, I think that they do have the best chance of staying up, because we see Crystal Palace today and what they ended up doing away to Brighton and how they've been playing generally. And Nottingham Forest have not been the side that also had the same effect that Luton Town is having this season. Last season. So this season they are struggling. Then you look at Brentford, who a couple of seasons back, they were the team that were wowing people. So I think Luton Town have a very good chance of staying up. But anyway, before we get into that, guys, it's your boy Izzy. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all the support you've been giving me so far. And now we are going to go and talk about the Newcastle game against Luton. So Newcastle started this game as you would expect. They are a team that are very tough to play at St. James's Park. But Luton Town didn't really show them as much respect as other teams have. And Newcastle have not been on a very good run at the moment. I think they had lost their last two home games to Manchester City, and they had also lost to Nottingham Forest. So some things needed to change a bit today in their gameplay. And Newcastle started off as you would expect them to. The St. James's Park crowd is extremely tough to hold back. And Luton Town found themselves 2-0 down in no time. Sean Longstaff had a brace, and at that point, you would have feared for Luton, because Newcastle, especially after the good result they had against Aston Villa, look as though they want to plow ahead and take care of business. But Luton, as they have been showing all season, they just don't know how to give up. And one of the hallmarks of their gameplay is the fact that their defenders always seem to step up with some very good goals. So when Osho scored and made it 2-1, Luton Town had some hope. And then eventually Barkley managed to make it 2-2. And at that point, Newcastle were a bit shaken. The game was pretty even at that point. I couldn't think of any reason why Luton Town couldn't believe that they couldn't push on ahead. But Newcastle, uncharacteristically of late at St. James's Park, have not been the strongest for whatever reason, whether it's just being off of form or the injuries that they've been having, and the fact that Isak is in and 1 minute he's out, Callum Wilson is in, the next minute he's out. For whatever reason, Newcastle United are not really gelling as well. But Luton Town make it 3-2, and at that point, you're thinking maybe they can just hold on and try and cling on to a victory. But what I really like about Luton is that they just keep on going, and they made it 4-2. And at that point, they really should have been able to try and fend off Newcastle. But as you know, St. James's Park, they get behind their team. They're not a crowd that falls below a certain decibel point unless they're absolutely getting shellacked at home. And that's happened a few times. I can remember during the Rafa Benitez era, the Mike Ashley ownership era, when things were really, really rough for them. My brother is a big Newcastle United fan, so I also tend to monitor them a lot. But eventually, they just kept on trucking, and Newcastle found their way back into the game. The only problem that I had with Luton Town is how easy Newcastle found it to counterattack them and to make sure that they get the game. I would have thought that Luton Town would probably try to drop back a little bit more with a 2-goal lead. You can easily get overrun, and Newcastle is a good team. There are no mugs. And so at this point, I think if Luton Town were to have any hope to try and beat them, they would try to rely on the people who have made this season the best season that they could ever have. And it comes from Ogbene and the likes of Morris. Ogbene, who torched Dan Burn over on the right-hand side for pace and got them that penalty that Morris converted. At the end of the day, Luton Town shows that if you keep believing and if you place enough emphasis on how your players are going to present themselves at the end of the day, they should be able to try and give you a performance that is worthy of their fans paying their tickets. You look at Sheffield United, and I do not see anything in them that can make them survive. Their home form is atrocious, and whenever they go away from home, they seem to always bend to the other team's will. Then you look at Burnley. Burnley are a side that might be able to, on a good day, put out a decent performance, but those two, I think, are definitely going to be relegated. And I think if the people above Luton Town right now, and that would be Nottingham Forest and Brentford and Crystal Palace, if those teams don't watch out, they are definitely going to be dragged in because Luton Town is not going to give up. And what I really like about Rob Edwards is that he seems to have a very good, close group. And while they are not really equipped as you would have thought to come into the Premier League, because most of these players are new, some people like your Sambi Lokongas, who had played at Arsenal, might have a little bit of experience, but most of them are very brand new into the league, and they're showing up teams such as Sheffield United and Burnley who have Premier League history in the recent past. And so more power to them. I think that this is going to be very good for the Hatters. They are a magnificent team to watch. They give you entertainment value above what you expect. And now this is 2 games in a row that they've scored 4 goals. Newcastle should be a little bit peeved by the fact that they conceded 4. And not because Luton is a terrible team, but because when you concede 4 at home, it's never a good sign. When you score 4 away from home, you should also expect to win the game. So Luton Town also have something that they probably need to correct. But other than that, I am a huge fan of what Rob Edwards is able to do. And I definitely do think that Luton Town are going to drag somebody out because I think they are going to survive. They do have that will of the Nottingham Forest last season, or the Huddersfield Town from 2017-18. And I think that they might be that side that will drag either a Nottingham Forest, unfortunately, or a Crystal Palace. And when you look at Crystal Palace, they seem as though they have just come to that end of a cycle where a team that probably has spent about 7 or 8 years in the Premier League and without any type of innovation, they just tend to fall, and they are in free fall right now. And Steve Parish has no answers for anything that's happening on the pitch right now. Roy Hodgson also looks as though he has been spent. So this is a very good chance for Luton Town to keep on dragging those people closer to them. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think. I really enjoyed this game. If you thought the Manchester United 3-4 victory against Wolves during the week was a good game, well, you would probably enjoy this one. It didn't have as much action towards the end of the game, and it wasn't as frenetic as the Manchester United game, but it was a very, very good watch. And you should expect these games right now because we're in the middle of the season. There are teams who are fighting and scraping for points as much as they could, and Luton Town did that well today. Newcastle, unfortunately, they keep on dropping away from that top 4, and if they don't notice, they might end up being pulled out of that Europa League spot as well. And then maybe more of a spotlight will be shown on Eddie Howe. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think down below. It's your boy Izzy. Thank you for watching. I appreciate all your support, and as always, until next time, peace.